Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video I wanted to talk about Mercury square or opposite to Pluto in Synastry. This is a really tough aspect to have in your Synastry. The square is a bit harder. Um, in the opposition, the Pluto person is more willing to let the Mercury person speak without attacking them because they feel on some level that the Mercury person maybe can teach them something about the lighter side of life. With the square, the Pluto feels very threatened and attacked by Mercury in most cases. So that's kind of the difference. The square is like a buzzing tension all the time, and the opposition can flip flop to feeling okay, we're at ease. Oh, and now we're attacking each other, and it tends to be more off on. So, this aspect, the Mercury person can feel so attacked and so violated by the Pluto person without the Pluto person actually doing much physically. The Pluto person has this very penetrating energy towards the Mercury person that can actually be very telepathic. They can still, with this hard aspect, finish each other's sentences, and this can show up in that's scenario where it's like, oh, I was just thinking of you, and then you phoned or whatever, right? Like we have that telepathy going on, but the Mercury person can feel like the Pluto person's energy is very overpowering and very off putting at times. The Pluto person, without even meaning to, expresses a dominance over Mercury that can feel even downright scary at times to the Mercury person. On worst case scenarios, the Pluto person could show up to the Mercury person's house unannounced and or be like a stalker or something. The Mercury person could feel like they cannot get away from the Pluto person because Mercury represents our day-to-day life and short trips and how we're perceiving the world. And so like in some cases you could see Pluto is like following them around, but that's not usually what we're gonna see here. But what we can see though is Mercury being incredibly intelligent and Pluto feeling threatened by this, or in some cases feeling inspired by this because they do see their intelligence, but it triggers something in them so deep that it's like this compulsive need to undermine them or put them down, or you could even see some kind of joking or sarcasm coming from Pluto. Coming, actually, this can go both ways, where they're, putting down each other's intelligence. Like, oh, you're not very smart, ha ha ha, But like, there's an undercurrent of like, that's the truth, like that they are in fact trying to bring down their mental confidence a notch, right? So when the Mercury person speaks, it's like the Pluto person can cut them off or not really hear what they're saying, or if they do hear what they're saying, they attack it and they try to make the Mercury person feel naive or feel stupid or feel like their thoughts are like crazy, or they can really if they're not conscious of it, put this Mercury person, this poor Mercury person, down on the ground, and the Mercury person won't want to talk anymore to the Pluto person. The Mercury person can, with this aspect, shut down, and you can see like throat chakra blockages, like complete closure of the throat chakra, because it just doesn't feel safe to just speak, because Mercury is just speaking. It's just what are you thinking about, talking about it. It's how you're perceiving the world, and when that is being assaulted by someone's Pluto in these hard aspects, the Mercury person can quiet down and not want to talk much, and that can be really damaging to their expression, to their throat chakra energy. So the Pluto person needs to be really conscious of the effect that they have on the Mercury person, because this can be very damaging in a relationship. And the Mercury person can feel really not at ease in the presence of the Pluto person. It can take a lot of effort for them to relax. Like they can feel like they're walking on eggshells. They can feel like they just can't even share their thoughts without being attacked. And so it can be that they just don't want to spend a lot of time around each other. And the Pluto person can also feel like the way that the Mercury person speaks and shares and is perceiving the world is um, just downright wrong, and or like they're too chill about things that are more serious. They're too yeah, like naive about things. And if the Pluto person can really learn that the Mercury person is here to help them perceive things in a new way, because the Pluto energy that we have in our chart, it's meant to transform. It's not meant to stay the same. We're not meant to, stay stagnant in and stuck in that Plutonic energy. It's meant to undergo rebirths and transformations. So if the Pluto person can just open up to the wisdom of the Mercury person, they can be transformed. And so that's ultimately the higher level of this synastry aspect, is that Pluto, their worldview is going to be expanded by the genius of Mercury, and all they have to do is just listen to them and put their ego aside, put their need for control aside, and let the Mercury person speak and share their thoughts. And then realize that, maybe they are perceiving things accurately, and they're actually here to help the Pluto person lighten up and see the world from not such a jaded perspective. Okay, so it's a pretty intense one. I actually have the square with my dad, and he's got a Mercury Chiron conjunction opposite to Pluto. And actually, no, he's got a Mercury Mars Chiron conjunction in Pisces opposite to Pluto, and they're all square my Mercury in Gemini. But then his Saturn is trine my Mercury. And we have a lot of other really good contexts that I think make up for the stress of that, like Venus conjunct Venus, Moon conjunct North Node, double whammy, Sun conjunct Ascendant, Jupiter conjunct Ascendant. I would consider those aspects that probably save us, but still, I have to be very cautious when I'm sharing or when I'm speaking just how I perceive things in the world, because I will just get assaulted. And with his Mercury Mars conjunction and his whole Mercury Pluto Mars Pluto thing going on, it's not that it's conscious that he realizes that he's so attacking and piercing with his verbal energy, but it's definitely something I have to retreat at times. I have to just be very slow and deliberate with my communication, or sometimes just not communicate at all, because it's like that's gonna drag me down, that energy. Like it's vicious, right? So it's definitely been a learning experience for sure. And I think that ultimately the Pluto person feels fear in, and especially if it's a parental figure with being the Pluto, right? They're going to feel fear that, they want to make sure you're aware of every scary thing that could happen, right? Because that's just how they see the world. Pluto is a very fearful part of us, right? Especially the Pluto and Virgo generation. Geez. So, the Pluto person needs to become conscious that they are living in this fear, and they're projecting it onto Mercury, which is more like a part of our childlike mind. It's not a fearful part of us, it's an inquisitive part of us that wants to just experience the vastness of life. And, the Pluto person needs to let go of the need to try to subvert that Mercury person's curiosity for life or their intelligence or their wit. And then this can be a really deep contact, because, we actually have more energy with the hard aspects. We have this like like I said, mental telepathy. We have this ability to have these deep and probing conversations about life and death and the mysteries of life. And, the Pluto person can also, the Mercury person can also be expanded by the Pluto person, because there is some things they're not seeing. There are some people or some circumstances where things are scary, and the Mercury person is missing that. And the Pluto person can help the Mercury person see where they're missing things, or they're scattered, or they're, not seeing clearly. They are naive, right? And the Pluto person can help the Mercury person tell the truth, because, if the Mercury person is mutable, or, a little bit like mercurial, jack of all trades, the Pluto person with their microscope into their mind can help the Mercury person channel their energy into something more deep and significant. So it can end up being helpful, but it just takes a lot of maturity on both parts. Like, if you can just understand this aspect is going on, it can heal your relationship, because then the Mercury person doesn't need to feel so attacked by Pluto. And Pluto can really be conscious of the effect that they're having on Mercury, because it's a very strong effect, and it can be like debilitating to Mercury at times. So, if we can both be conscious that we have this aspect, it can work out. The mental atmosphere is still going to be intense. There's still going to be a lot of stuff coming up, but you can end up having, like I said, these very intense, healing, transformative conversations. So yeah, it's not an easy one, but like I said, the opposition is a bit better. Pluto's a little bit more open to Mercury, and that, they do see their genius, they see their mental authority, and they want some of that. When it's the opposition, even more, they want them. And this can be Pluto Mercury can be a plutonic relationship too. It's where the Pluto person wants the intelligence of Mercury. They want they're turned on by their brain, by their mind, right? Or they're extremely triggered by it, or they think that it's lacking in depth, and then they try to push that onto them. And there can be a lot of unsolicited advice with an aspect like this, but it can be overcome, it just with wisdom and knowledge of it. So I'd love to know your experience of this aspect in Synastry, or either of these aspects in Synastry. Was it like this? Was it not like this? Let me know in the comments, you guys. And thanks so much for your requests. Keep them coming, and we'll talk soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.